What's going on, folks? Mr. Z here, coming to you from the Red Rock Canyons in Nevada, as you can see right here. Now, of course, some of you know that I've been traveling around a little bit, just doing a tour around the country, but I've been sending you guys videos from my explorations of the West Coast. Now I'm in Nevada, and I was, taking some opportunity to do some reading, or I was doing some reading, and that's sort of the subject of this video, but my book got stolen. Like the car I was renting got broken into, and they stole all my stuff. It's a pain. The material stuff, it is what it is. But I lost my grandfather's hunting hat. I lost a bunch of stuff that was personal to me. It's just painful. But I also lost that book, and I was reading this interesting section of the book that spoke about the origins of the culture in the southern colonies. And traditionally, when we think of the southern states, we think of there being sort of this unified southern culture, and today that very much is the case. But during the early colonial period, what's very interesting is that you had, along the coastal areas, two primary cultures. One that was emerging out of Virginia, and one that was emerging out of what was eventually South Carolina. Now, Virginia, we of course know, these are the Chesapeake colonies. These people were coming primarily from Britain, and they were just largely transplanting the culture as it was there, adapting, of course, for the more inland territories where things were more spread out, and they had to adapt to that. But those people who were settling, that population that was settling South Carolina, wasn't coming directly from Britain. Rather, they were coming from, if memory serves, again, I wish I had the book to just double check it. Okay. Now, what's interesting is that on this colony, this is sort of where we got the origin of the plantation and slave system that we see in the Deep South. Barbados, or again, whatever colony that they were originally coming from, had practiced this on a wide scale. But what wound up happening is that it was eventually consolidated by the very highest elite of that island colony, and those who couldn't compete migrated out to South Carolina and said, well, we can implement the same system here. On that island, the primary crop being extracted was sugarcane, if memory serves. So they thought, well, we have other crops we can grow here. And it's quite interesting to think of it in this sense, because what you started to see was the expansion of this population, this economic system, and this culture out from South Carolina and into the southern portions of North Carolina, and eventually would subsume the culture of Georgia. Because by the time that South Carolina had let's say by about 1760 or so, South Carolina would have had a population that was maybe 10, 11, or 12 times the population of Georgia, and it utterly subsumed and dominated the deep southern culture. When we look at maps of support for secession in 1860, you can see that the South is voting to secede on a, just generally speaking, but the larger, the northern states, I should say, Virginia, North Carolina, and, the Appalachian, Tennessee, and Kentucky states, these states are they're very hesitant, they're very split. But the deep southern states, South Carolina was the first one to, they were very enthusiastic. You saw widespread support there. So it could be said that the southern culture had this divide in it from day one, from the very creation of the southern colonies. You had Virginia as what was the South relative to New England, but then with the emergence of South Carolina as this state founded by people who were bringing over this slave plantation system, it sort of became cemented in that culture for a very, very long time. Studying history, I was always wondering, what was it exactly that was making the Deep South so adamantly pro-slavery throughout history? Because you read these things and you're just like, okay, the Deep South is much more pro-slavery than the Middle States. It's like, okay, well, maybe the Middle States got more migration from the North, and, the culture was just kind of split, or maybe there wasn't enough of a dependency on the slave economy, this, that, or the other. But finding this out, discovering this, it's like, well, the foundations for that, the importance of the institution was there since day one, which just, it's fascinating to think about. The more the more I seem to look into history, the more I find that culture, history, all these factors, they're all tied together. It's very easy to say, it was an economic thing. It's very easy to say it was this, that, or the other. But everything is just so intertwined. The economics, the culture, the very people who go over there, what they're bringing over, how they're feeling in relation to other things, what their history is. If the population that settled South Carolina was coming just directly from Britain, it probably wouldn't have been as pro-slavery as if it had, as it was, because it was coming from a colony in which slave plantations were in widespread use. And this seems like such a relatively minor thing, just the origin of this population coming from, not directly from Britain, but from a colony of Britain that had a different way of, different economic system, different way in which they were practicing their agriculture with this slave economy. It has massive ramifications for the future, just thing after thing after thing that comes after this. Whether it's the nullification crisis, which no doubt was motivated by South Carolina feeling that, hey, we are different. We are culturally, economically very, very different than the rest of the colonies. We have very different interests, and that spirals into the entirety of the South developing this similar culture and this similar economic system, to where they're like, yeah, we just got to secede. We want to be our own thing. Civil War, of course, and everything that spiraled after that. It's one of those butterfly effects that really makes you think. This is a book that I had read before, and, this is a section of it that I guess just went over my head, or I didn't have the background to really grasp the significance and importance of it. But, it's fascinating. I'm definitely going to buy a new copy of the book because I want to, reread it again. Usually I'll read a book once, and then I'll read it a second time, sometime later, and just highlight some important things. But, yeah, I want to get that book back because there was a lot of interesting information in there. Anyway, I'm, still traveling, so I want to get some content out for you guys while still enjoying my vacation and all. But, yeah, take care, folks. Mr. Z, out.